This is Anatomy of Success, and I'm your host, Steve Wolbenhaus. Welcome. Glad you joined us. This week, we're going to talk about dealing with negative people. Ever happened to you? Pretty much on a daily basis, I would bet. We're going to dive into this topic. Glad you joined us. Let's get started. Again, this is Anatomy of Success, and I'm your host, Steve Wolbenhaus, here for the first time. Welcome. Glad you found us. If you would, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow along, and then also subscribe to our podcast if you listen to that audibly. And you can rate and review. We greatly appreciate that. You can go by weatherology.com as well. That's my company page. Find out a bit more about my business. I've been a CEO of this company for almost 40 years. So when we talk about business success and personal success, I can promise you I have a little insight on the topic, and I want to share that with you here. That's the whole purpose of this exercise. Grab the Weatherology mobile app too, if you would. It is free. Find me under About Us at the top of that page. Links to my social media accounts, and you're welcome to join us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and here on YouTube. You know, some people have a difficult time appreciating anything positive. They find fault in everything, and their method of communication is littered with negativity. Several months ago, a person dropped by one of my LinkedIn posts, suggesting my message was flawed because my outlook was inaccurate. Now, the video was about overcoming the fear of failure. Their point is that more people fear success, not fear failure. My response? We are both right, and I write about both extensively. People do fear success, but this 20-second video was all about people who fear failure. Sounds simple, right? Not for a negative person that wants argumentation. Any attempt to point out the obvious is met with disdain, defensiveness. These people immediately push back if they feel their beliefs are being challenged. So how do we handle overly sensitive people that have a dark cloud looming over their head? Here's 7 ways I believe we can focus on to deal with this type of negative individual. Number 1 is boundaries. Now, it may sound selfish, but we have to limit our interaction with negative people. Negative people can drain our positive energy, and the effect of their negative behavior has health consequences anyway. Setting firm boundaries with negative people and refusing to let them dull our enthusiasm, it's essential for greater life satisfaction. Speak. We need to learn to speak up for ourselves, fight back, and still be respectful, kind. When we remain silent, the message is clear. We are doormats that offer an invitation for the perpetrator to continue walking all over ourselves and our pleasant disposition. We have to speak up and speak up with confidence. Example, if the relationship is something we value, we have an obligation to help the person appreciate their negative tendencies, I believe. We can share our observations from a loving, compassionate perspective by setting a good example. We can demonstrate how being positive can make a big difference in that social interaction. The problem. Being empathetic is important to understanding why people behave as they do. It's also easy to allow other people's problems to become our own. There's a fine line between being empathetic and being an emotional porta potty. Some people distort their problems to gain sympathy. We can't let other people's problems become our own. And sometimes we need to distance ourselves from people that are trapped in this cycle of negativity. Deflect. When conversations turn negative, move the discussion in a different direction. Stay positive and resist tumbling into the negativity trap. We don't ignore the person, but we acknowledge their point of view quickly and migrate away from this complaining stage that becomes perpetual for many people. Solutions. Sometimes close friends or family dump on our ecstatic energy. We have no alternative sometimes but to listen. However, I prefer to focus on the conversation and move it in a positive direction focused on solutions, offering them an opportunity to see an alternative that's more conducive to their better health. We help that person start appreciating they have options, and it's better to concentrate on solutions, not wallowing in self-pity. So long. Sometimes we just have to say, see you later. There's nothing wrong with leaving bad relationships and deciding to do what's in your best interest. We can't drag everyone else to the mountaintop, folks. Some people refuse to climb for our own well-being. Distancing ourselves from people like that is an absolute top priority. Today's conversation, all about how we set boundaries, essentially, with negative people, and they can be incredibly draining. And I encourage you to exercise a bit more self-worth in these relationships that you have, personally and professionally, so that you can apprehend a little bit more positivity in your life as a product of the people that you associate with. Because as we know, the top 5 people that we most closely associate with constitutes 90% of our belief system. I'm Steve Wohlenhaus. This is Anatomy of Success. Glad you joined us. Until next week, let's stay focused, let's stay positive, and let's stay optimistic.